Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today's video we're going to be working on the 77 F-150 with a 306. If you read the title, you probably know we're going to try to do a water pump. We got this guy from the local Napa. Got a Gates sticker on it there, so I'm guessing that's who probably made it for Napa. Either way, this one's, you can probably hear it, but it shouldn't rock back and forth. I'm guessing the bearing out here at the end has gone bad, and it makes some awful noises when it's spinning. So we're gonna go through the process of that for you guys. I've already replaced this hose one point. It wasn't cooling as good as I thought. It still had the original radiator in it. Had some crud down in the tubes. Something you guys could check if you're having overheating problems. I guess you can't really see, but there's tubes down in there and corrosion built up on the top of them, and we're partially blocking them. The other thing I did is I went to a 180 thermostat. Did that the other day. I did all these things before I had the common sense to grab a hold of this and see that it was rattling, and I thought I had an alternator noise, but here it was the water pump the whole time. So rattle rattle, we're gonna get into replacing that. Alrighty, let's do it. Alrighty, first step, you want to find yourself a 5-gallon bucket. Kick it underneath the front bumper here, down in this area. Down in here, get her set. There's a nice little petcock. You screw it basically into the radiator, which allows the fluid to run out. Now that you got the fluid running out, you slowly loosen this guy and watch to make sure the fluid's still going into the bucket where you want it to, because this will let air in. Fluid runs out faster, it'll start shooting a little bit further. If we've got a bunch of fluid drained out, I'd say I've got about 2 gallons. We're going to assume that that'll get that down low enough in the block and the radiator that we can start taking stuff apart. If we start taking stuff apart and get water, we'll open the valve up again and drain some more. Alright, so the next order of business, we're going to start working on getting fans and belts and such off. Let's get a 1/2-inch socket. Now you got to be careful that you got something thin enough that you can fit down in here and you're not rubbing on the radiator, because if you start rubbing on the radiator, you're going to start putting holes in it, and that is bad. And we're not taking them out yet. We're just loosening them while we still have the tension of the belts helping hold this, and my hand holding as well. Just the belts will help a little bit in case they're really rusted on. So far these are coming out pretty nice. And if you're clumsy, this wouldn't be a bad time to slide a piece of cardboard in up against the fins on the radiator, so you're definitely not bumping them. So one bump in the right place and you're buying a radiator. We're having to fix it. Either way, not a good day. Alright, at this point I've got all 4 loose. And there's a centering pin that the pulley sits on, so the tension shouldn't really be on these bolts from the belt. You shouldn't have that much tension anyway. All you're going to do is take the bearings out of this or this. Now we'll go to our 9/16, and if I don't have my head in front of the camera, we're going to loosen. That's tight. The adjuster slide on the alternator. And apparently we're going to have to loosen this guy too. Alright, I think he's 5/8. We'll find out here in a second. Nope, not on that side. This side's 5/8. That's enough to, yep. Just enough to loosen that to let it spin. Use our handy tool tray. And pull those belts away. Now we can finish taking them bolts out. Mind you, you probably cannot take them out because they'll run into the radiator. We're just going to get them until they're loose and then pull the whole thing out as an assembly. And wiggling the fan a little bit helps. Alright, that's 2. Almost out. And there it is. At this point, gently bring this out. Now you can see why I didn't take those out, because they're fairly long. And a lot of times this is aluminum is rotted into the metal where it don't want to come apart. And then this guy sometimes sticks on the end of the housing as well. This time we were lucky. We'll set it aside somewhere. Take these belts and just stick them over there out of the way. Pull that guy off. And yours may have more accessories. You may have to take belts off of more things. But this one, only having power steering, it's a fairly simple setup. I'm just checking my pulley for cracks or any damage. Looks to be good. So now we're down to we can actually see the water pump. And there is some dampness around the edge here where it was just getting ready to start leaking. So luckily we did this at the right time before we were along the side of the road and it decided to give out. Also, I'm going to change my plan again. I think I'm going to drain some more fluid out because I do have to take the bottom radiator hose loose here. So I might as well have all the fluid out of the system. So we'll open that back up. And that petcock down there, you don't want to reef on it. You just nice and gently turn it because you could break something. I suppose we can... This hose goes into your thermostat housing. It's a good... While you have this all drained out, it's a good time to do your thermostat. I've already done it, so I'm not going to do it again. But at this point, literally, you take that clamp off, this clamp off, pull them hoses, 2 bolts. It pops off, new thermostat in, new gasket, some sealer, and bolt her back on. See, I already did that. That would be redundant. We are going to pull this lower hose because it actually goes into the water pump housing. Something I like to do too is I slide the clamp down the hose a good ways so you don't screw up and forget to put it back on later. Give it a little bit of a twist, a pull, and that's off. Set it up here so we don't forget about it. We're actually going to stick our screwdriver in it so we have some bright yellow thing looking at us, because it's very easy to forget to reconnect something like that. I suppose I can loosen the clamp down here quick. Stick that back in there so we don't forget. Alright, just about quit dripping. I figure that's enough. We got our clamp loose down here on this. We're going to slide this guy up like we were tensioning it. There we go. And get it kind of out of the way so we ain't crunching our fingers. Loosen this clamp up a little bit more. Cut my finger the other day. That felt good in the fan. Spin it around. Shake the heck out of that and hope it'll come out of there. When we get the pump unbolted, we can twist it loose. So we need our 1/2 inch. I suppose before we do that, this is a good time to mention, while you can see everything, you can check and make sure you have the right water pump. Which it appears that I do. Sure looks the same. Alright. Now we'll unbolt it. One thing, if you don't need to drive the truck, you can wait for another water pump. But if you need to drive it the next day, you want to make sure you got the right water pump. Coming loose. I always like to break them with the ratchet. It's a lot easier to control your tension with it than it is the impact and find out that you broke something. That one's loose, that one's loose. So we got two, one there, one there, one there, and one there. So got the one on the bottom. Somewhere down here. And it's loose. This is also a very good time to not drop one of the bolts in the bucket as well. Screw these out the rest of the way. One bolt. Same thing, you gotta watch you aren't beating on your core for your radiator. Can't say that enough, I've screwed up a radiator before. Sometimes they're not expensive, sometimes they're very expensive. There, your last bolt. And we found us some water. That's why we left our bucket under there still. It's actually running out of the bolt hole that held the water pump on. Okay. Now, break that loose. A little bit of a twist, and it's out. And yes, this has not been a happy water pump. Things are rubbing internally in places they shouldn't be. Bearings are definitely out. So, I'm going to take our scraper and work at making sure there's no gaskets or anything there. It doesn't appear as though they used a gasket. Also, before I started doing this, I did take the bucket of antifreeze out from under the vehicle because I'm going to reuse it. Because I just put it in the other day, and right there's something you got to watch. If you're scraping the old gasket material off, make sure it doesn't go down in this hole, because all it'll do is cause you problems later as it clogs up the radiator. Also, while we can get at it, we're going to clean up some of this other stuff down here. Watch you don't knock it down the pipe that's still here, because this is a very good time to replace that pipe should you want to. This one has apparently been replaced recently. It's pretty soft and supple yet. Alright, so that was a lot of the gunkus. That was with the scraper. Now we'll take the actual razor blade and make sure we've got it all. Kind of hard seeing down here. The rag that we don't really care about. Clean around here a little bit more. Depending on how dirty things are, you could use a brake clean or something to clean around this as well. Let's stick this down in the hole and soak up some of the last little bit of antifreeze that's laying there. That bottom drain hole, if it's weeping out of there while you're trying to glue the new pump on, could cause problems. So we're doing this so we don't have a water leak. If we just throw it together, we're going to have a water leak again. Alright, so take that. Take our gasket. Sure which orientation it goes. Just go like that. Which appears to coincide with everything else down there. Set that in the same orientation right there. And get some silicone. So we'll smear a little bit of this stuff around here. You don't want to go overkill, you just need enough to coat things. And you don't want to get it into the impeller. That'll lead to all kinds of other problems. Use your finger here and just do it up on the mating surface a little bit. This was a problem from the last guy that did this. Used way too much, and it was on the insides of the motor. Then came around and clogged up the radiator. Smeary all around the gasket. Alright, we got enough off of there. Now we can take this, stick it on where it's going to go. By smearing it around the gasket with the gasket in place, you can see where you have to do, where you don't need to bother. Alright. Now I'll throw that on the ground so we don't get sticky stuff where we don't want it. I'll take this, slide it down through here into our rubber pipe. Grab one of our bolts. Yep, that one started. Now these bolts do thread into the water jacket, so a little bit of the goo on them won't be a bad thing. You don't want to go hog wild or nothing, just a little bit. And there we go. And it's good for our fourth bolt on the bottom. Then we got to pull the first one out again, put silicone on it. Okay, and we'll put her back in the hole. I'm just evenly going around and tighten all of these the same amount. Be sure that silicone's going where it needs to be, and not where it shouldn't be. Let it spin, make sure it's not bound up or anything else weird. That feels good. And if there was a little bit of silicone somewhere it shouldn't be, it's smearing around and not being a problem. Alright, there. We'll find where I put my ratchet. One more time around just to kind of get even tension on everybody. I'm sure there's a torque setting, but this isn't real crucial. I'm probably putting more torque on it than it's supposed to have just because of the length of the handle of my ratchet. Alright, your base all spins as it should. Let's put some pipes back on. That one's on. The clamp that we slid down so we wouldn't forget it. That worked out, we didn't forget it. Nice and snug. Rubber hose in the bottom, back up where it goes. Snug the clamp down on it. And ordinarily I'd recommend when you're doing this, it's a good time to replace these hoses because everything's drained anyway. But these, we're kind of doing this in reverse order because somebody else already did that. Ooh, look, instructions. Yeah, we'll look at them another day. Hose. Now we got to put our belts back where belts should be. Hand tighten this. Nope, apparently I got more than hand tight. 1/16. Let that alternator slide down. Put our pulley back. Get the belts on top of it. That's not good. Don't tell me the pump's too short. Yep. Yeah, looks like I'm taking this back apart. Alright everybody. It's significantly later in the day than when we were talking earlier. Being, an hour from the nearest auto parts stores has its drawbacks sometimes. So we had, where I left you guys, I put the water pump on. We're getting ready to put the pulley on, and the pulley would not fit. As it turns out, this is the original water pump. What you need to do, let me get an aid here. There are, for 1977 at least, there's 2 different water pumps. And if you go from 73 through 79, there's technically 4 different water pumps that could fit the 306. Now what I have found in my current situation is you need to find one and measure the face where the fan mounts on to the base that it mounts flat to the motor itself, not the pulley or the impeller, but the base here. In my case, it's just a smidge over 4 1/4 inches. The water pump I had installed in here, I believe was something like 3 inches. I've already put it back in the box. But with it being a shorter distance from here to here, I grab the water pump pulley. That's being a smaller distance. When I went to put this on down below, and you seat it, it hits against the water neck. This is no good. Your pulleys are out of alignment. Your belts are going to wear out, and it won't even bolt on, so the thing's not going to spin. Bad, bad, bad. I should have noticed that before I installed it. Hopefully you guys have watched the video now and won't do the same mistake. The other thing I noticed on the other pump I had, this nibbin that sticks out the middle that goes through the center of the pulley was a smaller diameter than this one. This one being, it's almost 3/4. I think it's smaller than that. This isn't a real good measure. The other one was a lot closer to 1/2 inch. Probably 5/16. So that's something to watch out. Normally that's a difference between a big block and a small block as well in these Fords, is the size of that. But hey, you live, you learn, you make mistakes. This guy, this is the old one. it was leaking around the seal here. And I also got to noticing they got some goo smeared around in this hole here. Apparently the impeller was falling off when they put it in, and they smeared some goo around it and popped her back on. It's not seated the whole way. Just a lot of little things wrong with this guy. From looking up the numbers, it appears that it was new in '61, so I'm guessing this was a rebuilt unit that got put in this thing, and it's seen some years. But anyway, back to where we were. So I've put the right pump back in, got us back to kind of where we were. This one actually has a plug too on the side, which my old one did, that we need to put in place. And we'll use a little RTV, smear in the threads. And I'm guessing you could leave this out and put your antifreeze in and know when you have antifreeze to the water pump and other sort of things. See, I'm going to reuse the antifreeze I had in it, and it was to the full mark before. If it doesn't all fit, I know I have air. Once I get it all to fit in there, I know I'll have all the air out of the system. So we're going to go without that. Screw that guy in there. Somewhere I have a ratchet laying. You guys can probably see it. There it is. Why didn't you tell me it was right there? Alright. And we'll ratchet this in a little bit. Once again, you don't have to go hog wild. Just get her in there till it's firmly seated, which feels about there. This also may be, I need to look it up, see if it would work, a good place to put a manual temperature gauge. Because these 77, they were all electronic and not the most trustworthy. But if everything's working, you don't need all that anyway. So, alright, now we're ready to get back to this. We'll put this guy in here. Hey, he fits this time. These guys, one in the back groove. Loosen that up so she'll slide on there easier. Come on. Go in your home. You know you want to be here. There we go. The middle pulley on the bottom, outside there, outside there. We'll just put enough on there so it don't fall off. Till we get our bolts through the holes. Save ourselves a little aggravation with our punch. Make sure we're actually where there is a hole. This feels right. Once again, don't poke any holes in the radiator. Grab our pulley, or our fan rather. And if you get screwed up and you don't know which way this stupid thing goes on, if you clean it up a little bit, it actually says front on it, which is kind of cool. They were looking out for us guys to screw stuff up sometimes. And gently set this down in here. Center it on the nub. Alright, we got a bolt started. Now we'll get 3 more for in the prize. I don't know what the prize is other than the truck will run again. I guess that's the prize. Alright, we got 3 started, feels like. kind of wiggle it back and forth, and you can get things to line up a little bit. When we get to putting antifreeze back in this, I went with a 50-50 mix. I'm in northwestern Pennsylvania, and that normally covers everything that I'm going to see. We get as high as 100-degree days in the worst of summer, and we'll probably get down to negative, worst I've seen is probably in the negative 40s, where this truck's not going to be out in that, so it's going to primarily be hanging out in the garage winter months, unless I have to pull it out to work on something else. Alright, at this point I'll get these tightened up and we'll bring you guys back. Alrighty, bolts on the fan are now tight. Nothing's wiggly wobbling around anymore. Things are looking up. Now, those, you want to make sure you have them tight. Not obviously break them off tight, but they need to be tight. And going in an alternating pattern, corner to corner, like you would if you're doing lug nuts, ensures that that pulls on nice and straight and flat. Alright, so now, right, there we go. We're going to pull up on our alternator to tighten our bolts, making sure that everything is seated correctly. Really just putting hand tension against this is really all you need. You don't need to go hi-ho overboard. You do have to have the right wrench. Which is laying right there. You guys are hiding from me again. Yeah, if you just nice steady tension on that, so those can move in and out a little bit. Too much pull on it, and all you do is wear these bearings out. If you notice it slipping, you don't have enough. And after I run this a little bit and the belts get set again, we're gonna double check, make sure that that all stayed tight. Tightening our swivel bolt and our adjuster. And you can still slide it in the belt, but you gotta work at it. And it will be easier one way than the other, just the nature of the belts, the way they've worn and whatever. Alright, so at this point, I believe we're ready to put fluid back in it. But I believe I'm going to wait till morning, give all that silicone a good chance to dry up, and we'll get some tools put away. We'll see you in the morning. It lives! Alright everybody, welcome back. We went through, we topped off our radiator. It's the next day. We went, well, you still can't see down in there. But anyway, you don't want to fill this up too much. It'll just bubble it out. So you want it down an inch or so in there. Filled it up, fired her up. Everything spins. Nothing appears to be leaking. We checked all our fittings here, looked in behind. Zip around over here. Gonna look back in around in here, make sure that where the mating surface, nothing's wet or drippy. Had a little bit of a drip down here at the petcock, which I just didn't have it screwed tight enough. But yeah, she works. She's a lot quieter now. And until next time, have a good one. And hopefully this helped you. Do the whole like and subscribe, really helps. And we'll see you next time. Thanks again.